Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Across the Pond, your two favorite American analysts here to talk you through Liverpool, the broader footballing pyramid, and
You shouldn't
much.
say, stop. You shouldn't say your two favorite American, your two favorite non-stop. We are the people's choice. Okay,
You
we
know,
are
it's
the
just
dynamic duo. Forget this America's favorite. We're going to be worldwide. We're going to be everyone's favorite worldwide. Okay, don't sell yourself short, please, Junior. Leave the hosting. Leave the introduction to the main man. Okay,
no.
Gooch it.
We have an agreement that I do the introductions, and I just thought, seeing as the whole America thing it's such a big part of our branding. And I just it felt appropriate to talk about it. The American flags all over the branding. I don't know. I thought it felt appropriate. And right off the bat from Ash, super chat. Thank you so much, Ash. Have a good one, guys. You'll never walk alone, fist
And
pound.
he's enjoying his Guinnesses. Have a few Jameson and ginger ales on me as well, Ash. I'm not sure if it's St. Patrick's Day extended for you celebrations, but have a few drinks on me tonight.
Yeah, let's just talk
Great
to the
contributor,
people
by the
real
way,
quick.
Ash. Yeah.
Cardier says, "Big up, Abby and Evan," and we are live. We are late because Abby just I don't know. He's just perennially tardy. That's just how it goes. People are already enjoying my
Listen, when
new
you're blue chip,
nickname.
you can come as late as you like. It's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
fair enough.
My
This is
fans, my people will always still represent me. Okay.
fair enough. Fashionably late is what he would call. St. Paul Jr. Yeah, it's already catching on. I wish it wasn't. Yeah, it is what it is. Um, Big up, Abby and Evan and Abby. Positive talks. We are busy. Winky face. It only took him 10 seconds. Yeah, we should do a little bit of a running joke or like a poll. How long does it take for Abby to interrupt the intro or at least find
It is
something
rude.
wrong
It is rude. I
with all
apologize.
of the hard work I
I don't
put
usually do.
in to making our channel and our show the best it can possibly be? Uh,
My vision, your creation. That's what I say to people.
okay,
It's
fair
my vision,
enough.
your
Fair
creation.
enough.
There you go.
Fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to talk about some really interesting topics. Of course, the first being what I would call a dreaded trip to the Etihad to face off with second place Manchester City. Then we're going to go through Liverpool's loan army, which Liverpool loanees out on loan could come and make a difference next season, if at all. We're going to discuss their futures as well as some players who could get loan moves next season. And then we're going to do a bit of a transfer roundup because obviously Klopp has opened up his mouth and said things about transfers, and transfers are always happening. They never stop. It is never truly decided who has won the transfer window. So yeah, let's get straight on into it. Liverpool versus Man City. Clock's ticking on a top four push. Avi, there really hasn't been much to say about this one apart from the obvious. It's a must-win game for Liverpool. They all are, with 12 to play. Erling Haaland is an injury doubt, and your boy Luis Diaz is returning from surgery and injury, and
Hallelujah.
he
Praise the Lord.
potentially
Praise the Lord, Evan.
yeah, it's a holiday. It's a holiday. Another interesting piece of context about this game, Abby, that I forgot to put in the graphic here. Another early kickoff, 4:30 a.m. for us Cali boys.
Another
We
beautiful
are
kickoff.
we are what 3 losses and 1 draw on the season for 4:30 a.m. kickoffs. Talk to me. How do you feel about this game? How do you feel about the context?
Just coming on like my mood now. Going towards the next sort of 12 games. I'm going to try to enjoy the rest of the season. Top four or not, I know the business that we're going to be doing in the summer. I'm very relaxed. I'm very happy. If we get top four, absolutely great. Back in the Champions League, season in, season out under Klopp so far. We haven't missed out yet. If we don't, it's totally fine too. Targets already being spoken about, and I know we'll get onto that, but I'm very relaxed. As of tomorrow, look, law of averages, right, Evan? We're due one, right? Law of averages, we're due a win. So I think tomorrow, we had a lot of chances in the League Cup game. You got to remember, Nunes could have got 3-4 that day. And I mean, he should have got 3-4 that day. So hopefully, with Luis Diaz back amongst the front line, I'm not sure if he will start. Pretty sure he'll be on the bench. It'll be interesting to see because obviously Pep's gonna, from here on out, they need to win every game because the way Arsenal are going is, they're producing the form that we have been producing in the previous season. So, it's going to be a tough game tomorrow. And if they have injury doubts, the more the merrier. If Haaland is a doubt, that's great news for us.
Absolutely. And with 12 matches remaining, Avi, and so much has been made of our remaining schedule for the rest of the season, specifically just in April. 12 matches remaining. We are playing Arsenal, City, Spurs, and is there another top 16 we're playing in the next month? I know it's those three. Just based on what we know, with 12 matches remaining, how many? What does our record look like? What will it have to look like, bare minimum, to crack the top four?
I think we need to win minimum 10.
Wow. Okay, double digit.
Yeah, 100%. We need 30 points. 30 points gets us to 72.
Yeah.
I think that would be enough. Spurs, it just depends on Spurs. Newcastle, I think, will fall off. It just depends on Spurs. New manager bounce. I know they've only got a sort of temporary coaching, but sometimes that can be a more of a positive effect than a negative one. So it'll be interesting to see. But we definitely need to win our next 10. Brighton are there. They're amongst it there as well. They've got a game in hand. I believe on us, but I think their legs will run out. So I'm hoping that we can create some kind of momentum, some kind of positive push towards the rest of the season. We've got Arsenal at home. We've played United. We've got City tomorrow. We've got Spurs at home. We've got we played Newcastle. We've got Chelsea as well.
Yeah, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Chelsea as well, starting to pick up some form under Graham Potter. I think obviously it's disappointing that we sit sixth, but for me, what's more disappointing is that it's completely out of our hands. Although we're six, although we're above Brighton, they have the game in hand on us. We are essentially having to root against Newcastle, Tottenham, and Brighton. So even if we do get double-digit wins, if we do get to 10 wins like you think is necessary, there's still a chance it could not be enough.
Yeah.
So to have it out of our hands for me that's the real gut punch. To have to worry about situations other than yourselves, because I wish I could just take it match by match, but unfortunately I'm going to be checking the Brighton score, going to be checking the Newcastle score, Spurs, even United. Obviously if they don't pick up some points, they could get drawn into this top four battle as well. So yeah,
we need 7 of the next 3, so that will give you, say you get 3 tomorrow. You got Chelsea get a draw at Stamford Bridge, again another ugly ground of late. And then you've got obviously Arsenal at home, which we've got a good record against. We need 7 of those 3. 9 would be absolutely perfection, but I don't think we're going to get 9. 7 would be great.
You say it's 10 wins. I'm going to look at it a bit differently. I'm going to say Liverpool can't drop points in more than 3 games. We're going to need to take something from at least 9 of the remaining 12 games. Ideally wins. But in those 3 those 3 results where we don't win can be draws. But Liverpool, it can't be more than 3 games.
What's previous seasons? What's the benchmark for top 4 to get 4th? Is it 65? Is it 65 to 70?
Usually that's enough to get you where you need to go. For example, last season in 21-22, Tottenham got 4th with 71. In 2021, Chelsea got 4th with 67. In 19-20, Chelsea got 4th with 66. And in 18-19, Spurs got 4th with 71. So great estimate, Avi. Usually 65 to 72 points will get you to where you need to go. So for Liverpool to hit that mark, they currently have 42 points, a minimum of 23 to 25 points. To be in with a shout. And again, that's requiring us to root against teams in and around us as well. So yeah, great knowledge off the top of your head, Abby. With Man City, we had one of our best displays of the season against them. And not, it's 1-0. Our goal, you could say it's a bit of a fluky goal. Great piece of play by Salah, great pick out by Alisson, not great defending from João Cancelo. But I think it's one of our best displays of the season in the way that we manage space. Our management of space this season has been appalling in every sense of the word. Our press from our forward line seems directionless and pointless. Our plugging of gaps in midfield and shielding of the back four seems just as aimless, and our inability to win 50-50s has been horrible. But against Man City, for whatever reason, last fall, we were able to turn it on. And I saw players like Fabinho looking like their normal selves again. I saw us converging on the opposition and making it really difficult for them to play out. I saw us looking like the toughest team in the league to play against, whereas previously, it's a tweet I keep referring to, we are often the easiest team in the league to play against. What do you think Man City brings out in us that you think? Because we generally seem to turn up against them. Our record at the Etihad is pretty respectable in the last 10 years. Do you think we have it in us to sort of just snap our fingers and become the Liverpool of old again?
I think I saw something today against the top 6 teams. We're top of the league. But it's against the lesser teams where we failed, the
Yep.
Brentfords and,
Forest.
the Forest, the Bournemouths, and so on and so forth. So we've got it in us. And I think knowingly that we've been in a tussle with Man City for the best part of 5 years, I would say, since 2018. We'll be up for this game. It's crazy how we can turn it up against the likes of Manchester United a few weeks back, and the week after we totally, look directionless against Bournemouth. Great word that you picked out. Very good on your vocabulary, by the way, of late.
I've always been good. Yeah.
Good work, Junior. And then we've got obviously Man City coming to mind. We beat them at home. We looked very comfortable at home against them. I know Haaland had a few, sniffed out a few chances, but then when Darwin came, created mayhem, should have scored, had chances that game too at Anfield. And then we've got them tomorrow. I will be up for it. 100% will be up for it. I think that's when the players will just get them. It's psychological at the moment, Evan. They will get themselves up for big games. Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, the next three. But then I can see us sort of the lesser teams falling off track again. So tomorrow is going to be a game where it's difficult to now imagine how Pep's going to, go towards this game because they're in a title race. We're not. We're so far behind right now. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Pep has changed his sort of mentality in approaching this game, because sometimes he does have that cautious approach when it is Liverpool, or maybe he fancies himself saying, wait a minute, we're the home team. Let's go for it. Because most times against like the likes of Manchester United in previous seasons at Etihad, he will go for the jugular. He will just attack. Tomorrow, it will be interesting to see what approach he takes. Is it the cautious Pep Guardiola that we've seen against Liverpool in recent seasons? Like tight affair. Yes, there's been goals, but, it's been very cagey, a bit of chess. Or is he just going to give his players, the chance to flourish?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does, because he's notoriously known to overthink such big fixtures. And, 8 points behind Arsenal. This is perhaps a bigger... You could make a case that this is a more of a must-win for City than it is for us in a lot of ways. But both teams are going to be hungry for 3 points. Jurgen Klopp, what sort of weaknesses do you think he will be looking to exploit in this City team? Because by their own standards, this is a weaker Manchester City team domestically. We can confidently say. What sort of weaknesses do you see within this City team that can be exploited by a Liverpool team that is both inconsistent yet still brimming with quality?
I wouldn't say there's real. I mean, the centre back pairings, have been changed and rotated quite a bit. Akanji has come in, Diaz has been out, Laporte has been in and out of the team, Stones has been injured. That's an area where they can expose the centre back area. But again, like, it depends on how we set up our front three tomorrow. It depends on how close we can get to their midfield tomorrow. I'm not, for me, it's important that Hendo and Fabinho start tomorrow, to get any kind of rhythm, in any type of control against Man City, because we know tomorrow they'll probably have the majority of the ball and they can be very direct and concisive with the ball. It depends on how we sort of move around and how we can sort of maybe get closer to the front three with our midfield. Because sometimes we've seen this season there's been a big disengagement from our front line to our midfield and from our wing backs. So it'll be interesting to see how we set up. But again, I can't imagine Klopp being safe tomorrow either. He's gonna have to go for it because he knows 12 games to go. Um, if he wants top four, we have to actually attack City. I would love for us to score first. If we
Mm.
score first tomorrow, we win the game, Evan. Score as early as we can, we will win the game.
Yeah, and so much of Liverpool's struggle this season has been the game script, right? Liverpool are, by their own standards, poor this season. No doubt about that. But you'd have to wonder just how many points better off Liverpool would be in the table if they had just managed not to shoot themselves in the foot inside 15 to 20 minutes, right? Because so much of our pain this season has been self inflicted. We've been found out in a lot of ways, and we haven't evolved in enough ways in every sense of the word. But again, so many just unnecessary errors and so much, miscommunication, falling asleep, and then lo and behold, the game script has been flipped against us inside 20 minutes. And when you're trying to regain confidence and regain rhythm and regain the identity that the coaches are trying to instill in you, it doesn't help when you're not only never scoring first, but conceding first constantly by your own hand. So obviously, a margin for error against City very, very slim. But I do think there are some weaknesses there to be exploited. In the same way they might look at our midfield. I look at their defensive line, and I think that in terms of athleticism, perhaps not with Kyle Walker, but I think we could overwhelm them in terms of athleticism. Salah could be quite a bit for them to handle. Darwin Nunez. It's not the most athletic collection of City defenders that I've ever seen. Akanji has done better than I thought he would since coming to City, but I've never rated him particularly highly. So yeah, quite a lot riding on this game. I would say the Spurs match in terms of our remaining top four fixtures is still the most important because that's like a 6-point swing there, assuming we can beat them. But there is quite a lot riding on tomorrow. Are you a superstitious man, Avi? 4:30 kickoffs, are they starting to scare you a bit? I'm scarred. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I'm not scarred as such, but we're due a win. That's what all I'll say. And look, coming back after the international week, hopefully we can surprise them, and we can sort of, there'll be an element of surprise by coming back from the international week. We have got some players coming back. We have got some players that didn't travel on international duty. So I'm hoping that we can catch City off. And if Haaland isn't leading that front line, then it puts us firm favourites for that game. Even though where we are, our drifts apart from Man City, it does put us in a good position to beat them.
Because you do carry Haaland, and some people who are more well versed in City than I am, City fans, for example, some of them would say Haaland's been ruthless, incredible. He's an XG goal machine, but you do have to carry him. He's not the linker of play that Gabriel Jesus is. He's perhaps not the same pressing monster that Jesus was. He's a different type of striker than yeah.
And football's so crazy because everyone would always say that Pep's teams lack a number 9 in City, especially. Like he never had a number 9. They were linked with Kane before Haaland, and they said, oh, if only Pep Guardiola had a 9, they would win. Like they would score so many goals. They would win the Champions League. Now they have Haaland. It seems as if his style of play, Pep's style of play, has stifled as well the team. I mean, Champions League, they look fine. They look great. I mean, they obliterated Leipzig. But in the Premier League, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked so well, even though they're like a whisker away from Arsenal.
It's strange because in a way it has worked spectacularly because Haaland has scored so many goals and they've created chances for him consistently. So his redesign of the team around Haaland has worked. It's just the problem is that the former blueprint might have had a higher ceiling, or it certainly did. It had a ceiling of 95 to 100 points.
There was more cohesion when they played a 3 before Haaland got there. So you had the likes of like a Jesus, a Sterling, and Mahrez, drifting in and out of the wings. Aguero, even to some extent, certainly worked harder than Haaland. But it's just the nature of the game. They just wanted a guy to put away the chances. He does put away the chances. But, you've got to give or take as well in terms of the style of play.
Gotcha. And Avi, are you going to be staying up all night and just catching the game in the early morning, or are you headed to bed at 9 p.m. like me?
I will head to bed by midnight, 100%.
Midnight, interesting. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, next segment. We wanted to talk about Liverpool's modest loan army. I use the term loan army tongue in cheek because it's not much of a loan army, but these are the players that are currently out on loan at Liverpool. Not all of them, but the ones that have been flirting with the fringes of the first team, the ones that seem to have the highest ceiling according to the coaching staff and their cameos in preseason and domestic cup matches and things like that. And of course, from left to right, we were talking about Leighton Clarkson, who has made 25 appearances on loan at Aberdeen, Tyler Morton, who has made 34 appearances on loan at Blackburn, Jarell Kwanzaa, who has made 11 appearances on loan at Bristol Rovers, Connor Bradley, 34 appearances for Bolton, and then Sepp Vandenberg, who unfortunately has only made 4 appearances for Schalke because he picked up an injury, I believe. A lot has been made of our academy, Avi. It's certainly let's call a spade a spade. It's not on the same level as that of London teams or the Manchester teams. Liverpool's academy could use some work. Not because we expect a Gerrard or a Trent every other year, but because Liverpool could do with making some more money off of their academy at the bare minimum. And with a legendary player development coach like Klopp, you would think Liverpool would want to, be making the most of their academy.
Well, if we sold Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones in the summer, that brings in 40 million.
We'll get to that. We'll
That
get to
brings
that.
40 million, eh?
He's jumping ahead in the show. He's jumping ahead in the show. He's not even whining and dining me. This is crazy. So I know you feel strongly about a few names on this list, and before we start talking about these guys and before we start speaking about what their futures at Liverpool could be, I'd like to acknowledge that we both understand how difficult it is to break into Liverpool's first team.
Yeah.
Never mind start. I think I speak for both of us when I say guys like Bellingham and Mbappe have set unrealistic expectations for the development trajectory of teenagers. You probably saw it earlier, Avi. I mean, Jude Bellingham has played more games as a teenager by the age of 19, March 31st, than like tons of legendary players, of legendary players that we thought were playing too much football from the ages of 16 to 19. So obviously that has created unrealistic expectations. These guys could have good careers, maybe not at Liverpool, but at top 5 leagues, clubs in top 5 leagues. But we're here to talk about it in the context of Liverpool, and we'll start from left to right. You like Leighton Clarkson a lot.
Big fan of Leighton Clarkson. First time I sort of saw him, he was in a pivot in a 2 in a reserve game under the Ian Beale. That's it, the one who's in charge of Rangers right now. For under 18s, under 20 levels, very tidy player. I know Klopp once labelled him as Philip Lahm, which was way too big of a ceiling, but I think he's a very tidy player. He can play as an 8, he can play as a dynamic midfielder in a 6. Will he make it at Liverpool? Probably not. He's got the quality. He scored some cracking goals this season for Aberdeen. I think he's got 6 or 5 goals this season in his 25 appearances. I think we can get a good fee for him. I think, we will probably sell him, in the region of maybe 5 to 7 million. Maybe we could probably get for him. And I know there's plenty of suitors for him at the championship level. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Morton. I've never been a big fan of Tyler Morton, Evan. I think he's a very tidy player. And I think that's it. I think he's just a tidy player. I don't think he excels in any one sort of dimension in his game to be a top midfielder. But as a player that we could get money for, again, I would think between 7 to 10 million for Tyler Morton. And these are just my opinions. Some people may think he is ready, or he could come in as a 7th, 5th, 6th, 7th choice midfielder at Liverpool, which is fair enough. Klopp believes in him, so who am I to say that we should sell him? Jarell Quansah is obviously the one that Evan I'm big on. Seen a lot of him in terms of at reserve level. He's got the features. He's huge. Got a good turn of pace. 20 years old. I've likened his game to Rio Ferdinand. Can come out with the ball very comfortable. he would be one of the homegrown players for next season if he was in our squad. I would keep him. He's definitely one that I wouldn't look to sell, loan, perhaps maybe at Premiership level, because I think he can get there next season. Or we'll keep him amongst the squad, depending on the futures of like Joe Gomez, Matip, Vandenberg, and so on. Conor Bradley, again, broke in our team at 17, a very adventurous right back. Defensively, has traits of Trent, can get sort of left behind, concentration level, but I think that happens with players who are sort of breaking into that team, and especially at age of like 18, 19. But Conor Bradley is one to watch out for. I've always I do rate Calvin Ramsey. I think, hopefully he gets over these injuries that he's had this season, and next season he can come back into the squad and sort of be a good option for when we need to rest Trent throughout games, or just give him more game times in the League Cup, FA Cup. But Conor Bradley is someone that I'd be very interested to see what his direction is next season, whether we retain Conor Bradley or send him out on loan, because I don't think we'll sell him. I think he will be kept on loan. And Sepp Vandenberg just unfortunately just had a very nasty injury early on this season. Great spell at Preston last season. I think he clocked up 52 games, played in a right back position, which we would never have thought of, but has done very well. It just depends on how he ends the season with Schalke.
It's tough to see how a lot of these guys fit into Liverpool's first team rotations, given our need for quality depth. Leighton Clarkson, yeah, he's always looked tidy player, but he's on the smaller side for a midfielder. 21 years old, plenty can still happen for him in his career. But at 21, it's tough to see how he would even displace Curtis Jones in his rotational role. So yeah, I do think the Championship would be a good level for him. About 4 or 5 million would be a good fee. Tyler Morton, a year younger, a little bit bigger, a player who we've seen a good amount of in by academy standards. I think there's a higher ceiling there, another gear for him to click into. Maybe a Premier League loan this time around. Maybe he could come in as one of the options. It's sort of all about what he can do to compensate for his deficiencies, because with the exception of Jarell Quansah, none of these guys are really like freak athletes, if you know what I mean, and Liverpool could do with some freak athletes right now. That being said, Tyler Morton could command closer to 10 million, I believe, and maybe Blackburn could end up making his move permanent, but I do think he's really good. And the way Klopp and people in the first team speak about Tyler Morton, some of the quotes from guys like Thiago and Henderson, I think are kind of telling. The people generally seem to believe in this kid. Now, Jarell Quansah, it's become a bit of a meme, you talking about Jarell Quansah and stuff. Fuck off, kitty cat, doing a podcast. That's a freak athlete. I mean, he just looks like a freak athlete, absolutely. And the guy towers over people. And am I correct in saying he only went on loan to Bristol in January?
Correct, January. Yeah, he just picked up a red card 2 weeks ago. His last game before he went off to under England under 20, which he got his first cap in 2-0 win over Germany. But he did pick up a red card.
Well, the people who watch academy football, Liverpool academy football religiously, me not being one of them, but the people that do really talk about Jarell Quansah in reverence, and the Bristol Rovers fans that have talked to those academy people that I talk to speak of him in reverence as well. So it'll be interesting because academy players who are ready, they kind of just come out of nowhere. Like nobody is considered to be good enough until they are. Nobody is considered to be a top prospect until one day it's just known that they are. So that could just happen for one of these players. They could just wake up one morning and find themselves as third or fourth choice in Liverpool's rotation, and then their career goes from there. But it's tough to say. And I think with Liverpool's center back question this summer, Jarell Quansah could maybe answer that. Although we are, eyeing other center back options, which we will get to. Conor Bradley, this one's interesting. That's a lot of appearances for Bolton in League One, I believe. So it's, I don't know. I think I would have an easier time answering this question if we hadn't signed Calvin Ramsey, right? But now because we have signed Calvin Ramsey, and because Calvin Ramsey has picked up a season-ending injury, this makes the Connor Bradley thing a bit interesting. I think him and Calvin Ramsey are in and around the same age, pretty much. He's been spoken of highly by Klopp and coaches. It could be tough. Again, backup right back is another thing that we're going to have to at least think about when we're conducting our summer transfer business, with Milner heading out the door. Joe Gomez's future sort of maybe up in the air. Who knows? This is one to keep an eye on. I'm not quite sure, though, because it could be as simple as he gets Premier League loan or a Championship loan this time around, and Calvin Ramsey ends up just waltzing back into a rotational role once he's fit. I don't know. This is one to keep an eye on. Sepp Vandenberg is definitely sort of playing at the highest level. You know, he had a great spell at Preston, like you pointed out. And his loan to Schalke indicated that they thought he was ready for a certain level of football, and Schalke thought he was ready for a certain level of football. It's a shame he got such a nasty injury, but his 4 appearances apparently were very promising, and his entire season for Preston was very promising. And again, we need center back and right back cover as well. Though, that being said, when he did sort of play for us in domestic competitions in previous seasons, it wasn't anything to be too excited about. That being said, he was like 17, 18 years old, so I'm not going to hold it against him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to this crop of players. It could be as simple as they all go back out on loan, or they net us 15 million altogether and we move on. It's really tough to say. Even people who watch academy football religiously can never really be sure. So
just coming on this, if there was one player out of that 5 that I would put my money on making their way into that Liverpool squad, it would be Jarell Quansah for me, Evan.
And you say that just in the capacity of he's kept around next season?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think that would be that wouldn't be a bad shot. I would say it's probably Quansah or Sepp Vandenberg, if I'm being quite honest, because Sepp Vandenberg's approaching that age where it's like, okay, are you going to do it or not? Yeah, Pete, are you referring to Quansah or Sepp Vandenberg? I think he's referring to Sepp.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's so funny. I think people forget that because football is all about sort of being quick over 5 to 10 yards. They forget that even the slowest players are absolutely rapid over like 50 to 60 yards. It's rarely ever the guys like Mohamed Salah who clock the highest speeds. It's always the bigger, lankier dudes like Nunez and Gomez and Van Dijk and Sepp. You know, it's the guys with the longer legs that can really hit a high speed over 50, 60 yards. We're not done talking about loans yet. I thought it would be fun. You know, Abby's like, let's talk about our loan army. I'm like, let's talk about the guys who maybe could do with a loan next season. So here's our loan army, and here's candidates for 23, 24.
Don't see Harvey Elliott on there. So.
Well, yeah, because he's a first-team player. He's made a lot of appearances. We're not going to do that today. We're just not. From left to right, of course, we're talking about Fabio Carvalho, Curtis Jones, Ben Doak, Cade Gordon, and Calvin Ramsey, the aforementioned Calvin Ramsey. Fabio Carvalho, one of the bigger disappointments of Liverpool's season. You know, we moved heaven and earth to get this kid. He looked fantastic for Fulham in the Championship. So he had already sort of had that level of grown man football experience that we'd like to give players like loans in the Championship. He had it for a different team, the best team in the Championship. And then he comes into this Liverpool team and we're bad. It could be as simple as we're bad and we can't accommodate him right now. It could be that simple. Or it could be, why the hell did we sign this guy? Is he a midfielder? Is he a forward? I'm not quite sure. Personally, Avi, I've always been afraid that Fabio Carvalho would fall into that trap of I call it the Minamino trap of he's a forward, and Klopp and Klo will view him as a forward, but he's ineffective outside of 18 yards. Minamino, as a forward, you know, inside 15 to 18 yards was great for Liverpool. Great. He had plenty of great games doing things in and around that area, but outside, build up, passing, anything just outside of 18 yards, he's kind of useless. It sucks to say. So that's the fate I'm worried that Fabio will suffer. I hope I'm wrong, but it's going to be tough to see how we accommodate him next season, given our wealth of attacking options now. And it's clear we need something else other than like these diminutive sort of attacking midfielder-esque players playing in an 8. People already have such an issue with a guy like Elliott playing in midfield. I don't think they would, be so happy with Fabio. Curtis Jones, I have every belief that he has all this ability and talent, and that hasn't changed. I've been consistent with that. It's just I'm not sure what's going on with his development. I'm not really sure what's going on behind the scenes. He seems to have fallen out of favor. He had that weird like orbital eye fracture thing that kept him out. That's a freak injury. I guess that could happen to anybody. But we haven't really seen the development with Curtis Jones. And I will say I do think he's been unlucky during his time at Liverpool. I think he sort of comes into the team at the height of our dysfunction. And then now he's part of another dysfunctional Liverpool midfield, and then he picks up the injury. It's tough. He divides opinion really, really dramatically, as I'm sure you know. But I do think his name deserves to be on the chopping block for a loan move at the very least, if not a permanent deal, because I think the clock's ticking a little bit. Because now it's sort of a matter of our desperation, Abby. Now Liverpool need a certain quality of midfielder in the summer. Liverpool can't do too many projects. It seems Liverpool are already dumping 100+ million on one guy who, as good as he is still a project. We all know who he is. But Curtis Jones, I wonder if sort of through a combination of injuries, bad luck, and mismanagement, I wonder if the clock has ticked on him and we're nearing his expiration date to truly break into the first team. Ben Doak, spoken of so highly by those who watch the academy and has had some really promising cameos in the first team. You would expect that he would get like a championship loan. That seems to be common practice. Who's head of development these days? Is that Vitor Matos? Is that who's doing development? So it seems that Matos's thing is everyone does a year in the championship, even if you're ready. So like Harvey Elliott did a year in the championship. Curtis Jones probably should have done a year in the championship. I think Ben Doak will get that. The same could be said for Cade Gordon, who had a really lengthy layoff. He had like a hip issue, and then I'm not really sure what happened, but he had a really lengthy layoff. But he needs now to play first team football. And I think he should play grown men first team football because he signs for Liverpool, and Cade Gordon is spoken of as like one of the best 16-year-olds in the country, if not the best 16-year-old in the country. Calvin Ramsey, circling back to the whole him versus Connor Bradley thing, one of them will go out on loan. I'm not quite sure who it is. One of them will probably stay, but his name definitely needs to be in that conversation. So these are the guys who I think should go out on loan or definitely will go out on loan. Avi, I've said my piece. How do you feel about this group of five?
A piece too long, some would say, but a great piece, by the way, Evan.
Thank you. How did you restrain yourself from interrupting me, by the way?
Totally fine. Hey, listen, I've got to give you some mic time too, right? It's unfair that the showstopper, the main man, always steals the show. So I've given you your piece. Is that beer you're drinking, or is that water? You're on mute.
It's water, mate.
Water. Okay, got it. Fabio Carvalho, mate, one of the most exciting players 18 months ago, wasn't he? Or even a year and a half, a year ago at Fulham. Always picked up the ball from deep and would just run with the ball. Great dribbler. We've seen nothing. A couple of finishes here and there. I remember the finish against Bournemouth, which was a really tidy finish. A little cameo, 10 minutes against Manchester United in the away game, first few games of the season. Then after that, it's been far and few and far between. I think a loan is crucial for him. I don't think he'll get the game time next season. I definitely do see a future for him. Just depends where. I think he can operate outside of the opposition box. I think he can. He can have that work rate. I do see him becoming a very good player at Liverpool Football Club. So I would definitely retain him. But yeah, I think a loan would be sensible. A Premiership loan. Forget the Championship. He's too good to be a Championship player on loan for a year. He needs to be in the Premiership. So any clubs that are looking, Burnley maybe could be a great move for him. Vincent Kompany's doing some great things. Yeah. One of the most exciting teams in the Championship. So maybe that could be a loan move in the offing for Fabio Carvalho. Curtis Jones, without being biased, time is ticking now on him. A young starlet who's been around now for the best part of 4 or 5 years. Yeah, 4 or 5 years in and around. But just hasn't happened for him this season. He's been suffering from shin splints that he hasn't shaken off. So it's going to be crucial. I think if a offer of 15 to 20 million comes in for him, Evan, unfortunately I can see us selling, because Liverpool will operate still as a business. They will be a little bit loose when it comes to spending, but I think they'll still be wanting to recoup a fair amount of money too. I think 15 to 20, hopefully 25, I think we would sell. And that's me, by the way, saying that about Curtis Jones, a player that is one of my favorite youngsters coming through, but it hasn't happened for him. Ben Doak, 17 years old. I wouldn't send him out on loan just yet. Retain him for another year. Still needs to work on his game. And I think Liverpool is the best place for him to learn that. And maybe the season after, see where he is, assess, and maybe send him out on loan after that. Cade Gordon, the lad's just been unfortunate, isn't it? He's had hip abductor issues, muscle issues, a few health scares. We won't go into it. Don't want to speculate, but yeah, it's just been unfortunate on the lad. But hopefully, he's back in training that we know. I think they confirmed it a month back that he was doing light training. So hopefully we see, him having a good preseason and coming back next season stronger. I think a loan move makes sense. But again, I would probably look at championship level. I think for Cade Gordon is fine. He's still 18. So a season out to the championship is totally fine and totally beneficial for his talent, because he's missed out on too much football and he can't be in the Liverpool squad for next season because he won't get enough game time. Whether we give him League Cup games, FA Cup games, he needs to be out there playing week in and week out. And Calvin Ramsey just depends on how he recuperates from his injury. I think it was a knee injury that's kept him out now till the end of the season.
But the reoccurring issue is like growth.
The growth, the growth spurts,
yeah.
Similar to what Steven Gerrard had as well when he first started off.
Yeah,
that stunted his growth a little bit. But hopefully, look, Calvin Ramsey can again have a good preseason. If it was between the choice of him or Conor Bradley, I would probably send out Conor Bradley. I think Calvin Ramsey just has that little bit more ceiling, but Conor Bradley is a very exciting, adventurous right back. He needs to learn the defensive side of his game.
Absolutely. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to this group of 5. There's a lot of potential in this group. It's certainly, perhaps in terms of potential, it's a more exciting, it's more cumulative potential than this 5, almost certainly. But yeah, it's there's some disappointment here. With the exception of Ben Doak, you have reason to feel disappointed with the other 4, unfortunately.
I think with Cade Gordon, I'll give him an exception. I think that can't be helped.
But you just feel bad.
You feel disappointed, especially with Fabio Carvalho, Curtis Jones. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Klopp may not fancy him. It may just be that Klopp doesn't fancy him to make an impact in our first 11 or in our squad. But yeah, Fabio Carvalho, Curtis Jones are 2 definite players, and Calvin Ramsey this season that we thought would have provided some stiff competition.
The Curtis Jones thing, before we move on to the last segment, for me, what's the most disappointing about Curtis Jones is that we absolutely need players in that age bracket, and it would be wonderful if we could save some money by producing one from our own academy. And it's such a shame because Curtis Jones obviously has talent. Like, he was too good for youth football. He's potentially too good for a level below the Premier League. Maybe, I don't know. Don't chastise me for saying that, chat. But it's just a real shame because the guy has the tools. Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes. Don't want to speculate. That's irresponsible and not fair. But it's just a shame that we can't think of Curtis Jones as like a nailed-on squad option because, like you said, 15 to 20 million would turn your head, and you're a believer in Curtis Jones and me myself as well. So it's a real shame.
Sleepy Forest with a chat, guys. What's happened to Musialowski? Crazy dribbler. Evan, you want to touch upon Musialowski or
go ahead?
I just think he's just a bit lightweight. I don't think he's had. I just don't think he's ready. Exciting talent for sure. 18 months ago, but I think he'll be sold this summer. There were rumors that he was going to go out last summer, but apparently he stayed on. But yeah, look, it's crazy how hard it is, that transition from youth level.
Yeah, and it's such a difficult level because you can kind of be like Curtis Jones or Musialowski, maybe too good for the U18s, too good for their U21s, but just not quite good enough for the Premier League. Or not just the Premier League, not quite good enough for a team that's trying to be top 4 in the Premier League every single season. So the jump from our academy to the first team is higher than the jump from Crystal Palace's academy to the first team for context. Let's talk about our next segment, which is probably the one everybody wants to talk about. It's exciting. It's fun. Transfer roundup. Klopp's comments. Jude Bellingham, Mason Mount, and more meaning Evan and Dicka. So let's talk about Klopp's comments first, Abby, because he said some stuff. And it made me have to redo my graphic. Thanks a lot, Klopp. Klopp said some things candidly about transfers that you wouldn't necessarily expect him to always say. He says he's positive about the progress Liverpool have made over the international break in terms of planning the summer's transfer business. To use a direct quote, he says, "On the player side, I am positive. There are talks, but no decisions. We are busy.
Decisions have been made. Decisions have been made.
You didn't even let me read the quote.
I don't need you to read the quote. Please stop waffling on. Decisions have already been made. But go on, carry on. Finish the quote.
I was like 2 words away from finishing it. Anyways, he said, "We are busy as you can imagine." And then I was going to segue into you if you would let me. It was such a nice treat after the disappointment of Kiev to have a shiny new Champions League level midfielder in Fabinho introduced, 48 hours later, 72 hours later, something like that. Are you, Abby, expecting a grand unveiling of some midfield signing minutes after the season concludes? Tell us.
Can we be serious? This channel is about seriousness, okay?
This is
with a few hot takes chucked in. Listen, I have an exclusive. Yeah.
Oh,
I have a
huge
exclusive.
I need to create a sound effect for that, like exclusive. Boom, you know what I mean?
I have an exclusive. What should we touch upon? Should we touch upon how Jude Bellingham is a Liverpool player? What do you want to touch upon? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you were there at his Liverpool media day when he was trying on his Liverpool underwear. You know what I mean, or whatever we give new players.
Look, all serious. First of all, I want to dispel this Evan Endika speculation.
Oh, we're saving the juicy stuff for last. Okay, cool.
I'm sure he was a player of interest a few years ago. Maybe I don't dispute that. I don't. I don't want to say anyone that has said that there's interest in Ndicka. I don't want to say anything, but I don't think he's a target for this summer. I just want to say that I don't think that we will. I don't think any talks have taken place with Evan and Ndicka. I don't think he's a player that will. I don't think he's a player that is interesting us at the moment. I think we have, a higher ceiling than Evan and Ndicka. I'm not sure he plays in a 2, Evan. I think he's more comfortable as a 3 or as a left back. Mason Mount. I've got exclusive on Mason Mount.
Wow.
This will bring all the critics on Twitter again and start coming for me. Hey, I welcome it, all of it. Mason Mount, Liverpool is his preferred destination, and £40 million is the talk. Forget 50, forget 60, forget 70, forget what you're reading from different tabloids, telegraphs, journalists. £40 million will get Mason Mount, and his preferred destination is Liverpool Football Club. So I'm hoping that that's pretty much nailed on. And Jude, what do you reckon? You think Jude's a done deal, Evan?
Nothing is ever done, and I'm here to be the pessimistic voice of dissent. Not that I don't want Jude Bellingham, but because I have just been wounded too many times. I have just been hurt. You know what I mean? We all remember that that screenshot of Nabil Fekir doing his LFC TV interview. So if it can get to that stage and not happen, then I mean, how can you blame me for not wanting to until he's dapping up Trent and being carried around La Axa on Klopp's back? Then I don't.
Jude Bellingham is a Liverpool football player.
Okay, there we go. Avi
Jude Bellingham is a Liverpool football player.
And if you follow Avi on Twitter, or you've followed this channel for a while, he's very publicly confident that Jude Bellingham is going to sign for Liverpool. The reputation is that it's a really poorly kept secret in the world of football. Thierry Henry at halftime of some Champions League game the other day said, "Oh, come on, everybody knows he's signing for Liverpool." And I mean, it certainly looks like Liverpool have a strong case, definitely. So there you go.
That case is closed now. Evan.
That case
Okay,
is
that
closed.
case is closed now. Jude Bellingham. Let Dortmund. Obviously, we've always got to be respectful to the club.
Mhm.
The player is very respectful to the club that he's playing at. Dortmund are in a serious title challenge, title race with Bayern Munich, especially now that Nagelsmann has gone. Hopefully, Dortmund win the league. Hopefully, they win the Bundesliga. And, a week after, 10 days after, we will confirm that Jude Bellingham is a Liverpool player. Fee, I said that it was 110 million. Let's see how less or how more it is. But yeah, Jude Bellingham's a Liverpool player, ladies and gentlemen. JB8 is
This
everyone's
is
number.
what I get for trying to keep my feet on the floor and my pants around my waist. Come on, Evan, lighten up. Judas coming. Boo, simple as boo, Evan. Yay, Abby. Congrats, Abby. You're the most
Evan is what makes this show. So all jokes aside, he's the man. Forget me. Boo me when Jude don't sign. Okay,
Yeah,
boo me when Jude doesn't sign.
I certainly will. I certainly will. We will, we'll definitely we'll have the roast of Blue Chip LFC
And for me,
on here.
I think that's obviously look Jude Bellingham. Obviously, look, it's no open secret. I think that's great business. Mason Mount, I think that would be great business. And Mateus Nunes, I think, is phenomenal business. Those three coming in this football club this summer, that is excellent business. That's a 10-10 for me. Yes, we could go in for a 6, a Fabinho type, a Ugarte type. I know you're a big fan of Ugarte, and why wouldn't you be? But I think I think those three, if it is those three, it's great business. I mean, if those three coming in and an additional 4th, but those three is a great step.
We still have a mountain to climb, says Asim. That we do. Mason, the man mountain. I like that. I've never seen anybody. Well, Chelsea fans hate Mason Mount for whatever reason. So maybe they haven't ever thought about calling him the Mason Mountain, which I will definitely be calling him if he becomes a Liverpool player. Okay, so that 3 that you mentioned, Abby, let's get serious. Let's get serious. We're a serious show. We're about being serious all the time. Jude, you say it's done. Mason Mount likes Liverpool. He can be had for an available fee for a guy who's going to be a free agent in 12 months. And then, of course, Paul Joyce and I'm forgetting the name of the Wolves journalist. I think it's from the Telegraph. Percy something. Forgive me,
John Percy.
John Percy. Yeah, John Percy said, both along with Paul Joyce, that Mateus Nunes is sort of like on this unofficial loan move to Wolves. They paid money for him, but it's Jorge Mendes might be trying to shop him around to teams who expressed interest last summer, like us. So it's I don't know. There's some weird things going on in the world of football transfers.
Just on that Mateus Nunes, and I'm not saying that my word is gospel, but the fees that have been floating around is very true. It is a very small upfront fee for Mateus Nunes. And then you obviously spread the payments.
Are we committing to Nunes?
Yeah,
because we have to have a united front on this. Are we saying Nunes or are we saying Nunes?
Mateus Nunes.
And that's because he's Portuguese. Yeah, that's what the Portuguese say.
Yeah. Well, Brendan Goncalves, who is our friend from up north, New Jersey, Gonk, he's got a bit of Portuguese in him. He said it is Mateus
Nunes. But in Portuguese, does the C doesn't always mean ch then? So it's not Goncalves, it's Goncalves.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's important for me because we're like Avi said, we're a serious show. We're a serious, global, cultured show. This, the whole American branding, it might lean to the fact that we're stupid, idiot, ignorant Americans, but we're here to dispel those preconceived stereotypes that you all have about us. We're here to keep the Americans in the beautiful game, not out of it. So it seems like Mount, Jude, Mateus Nunes, who I'm a huge fan of, by the way.
Now imagine we don't get none of those 3. Just imagine the uproar. The uproar. Fans will be gunning for. They'll be booking their flights to come and look for me and you. We will have to abolish this channel. This show across the pond will have to be abolished forever.
Forget JB8. It'll end up being SB8. Sander Burge.
ATP no longer.
Oh man, yeah, it won't be across the pond. I mean, it'll start World War III, won't it? But those three, Avi, in terms of the those are the three targets that have been endorsed by the most credited journalists out there.
Yeah.
So that's a great three. I like all of those players. I've always thought Mason the Man Mountain, thank you, Asim, was a great player in a unstable situation, excuse me, at Chelsea. One thing I will say about Mason Mount that I think is telling is that he is absolutely adored by every single manager that he plays under. And even though he's played under some shit managers that you might say, oh, Lampard likes him, who cares? Every single manager adores him and seems to enjoy fielding him in the team over players who you might consider to be more talented or whatever. So Mason Mount, and that's this. I'm not saying Mason Mount is this average player who's going to be above average at Liverpool. I think he's a good player who could be really good at Liverpool. It kind of reminds me of the Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain move in a way. They're different players, similar. It's just similar situations, and the fact that they're both English in this age bracket could be had for this price. Liverpool need midfielders, so I'm on board with Mason Mount, provided it is in that 30-ish million range, because obviously the BS numbers that are being floated around by tabloids, we're obviously not going to pay 60 million for a guy who has less than 12 months on his deal. And then Matheus Nunes, a lot of people are kind of turned off because their first time watching him actually play has been for this weird kind of shite Wolves team. He's been played out of position. The team is generally not very good. His numbers aren't crazy. I don't know about you, Avi, but you told me last summer that you thought he was the real deal. You're like, oh yeah, go watch Matheus Nunes. Go watch him at Sporting. Guardiola can't stop raving about this dude. And, in the round of 16 of last year's Champions League, when City just walked all over Sporting, Guardiola went to the cameras and said, yeah, Matheus Nunes is one of the best midfielders in world football. So just based on his time at Sporting and just based on the highlights of him playing at Sporting, even in games against Manchester City, I thought he looked incredible because he's great in managing multiple phases of play. First phase, second phase, third phase. I do think there is a player there that could help Liverpool with at least 80 to 90% of their midfield issues: ball retention, quality, neatness, tidiness over 5 to 10 yards, dueling in the midfield, bringing the ball out of defense, dropping deep and bringing the ball through the lines. I think he's that type of player. And I'm absolutely on board for the quoted prices. What I will say about that three, Avi, this accredited three, we'll call them, there is a certain type of profile missing, right? It's a six. It's a holding midfielder, and people are generally not. I shouldn't say all people, but there's a sizable group within the fan base that are a bit anti-Fabinho as a starter next season. Perhaps they don't want him sold, but they don't think that he should be the undisputed starting six. I like Ugarte. I do like Ugarte a lot. I'm also a big fan of Ezekiel Palacios from your beloved Bayer Leverkusen.
Yeah.
I think that's a similar profile, but maybe a little bit older. How do you feel personally? If that's the three and that's it for Liverpool's midfield signings, you're looking at 3 number 8s, shall we say. Are you okay with not signing a 6?
I'm very happy with those 3. If it's only those 3 that we're getting and not an additional 4th, like a DM as such as a 6, then I'm more than happy. I think
but how you like that 3 so much you could say we can make the 6 work next season somehow.
Yeah, because those 3 players, they'll make Fabinho recapture his form. You got Bajicic as well, who'll get his fair share of game time. But Fabinho's game will be elevated with having runners alongside him, powerful runners, not just in attacking transitions, in defensive transitions as well. And those are the focal points of why we're looking for players like Bellingham, Mount, and Nunes. They've got that explosiveness. Mount, you haven't seen it so much this season, but they've got that explosiveness to gain yards in an attacking threat. On the third side of the pitch, on the attacking side of the pitch, they can gain yards, and on the way back, when they've got to defend, they can track back just as quick. Especially Matheus Nunes. Moby put a great piece up on his speed of how much he's clocked back, and that's why he is a player of interest. Forget his stint at Wolves. I'm telling people, take it with a pinch of salt. Ruben Amorim is a high up-and-coming manager at Sporting Lisbon, talks highly of this player. Pep Guardiola, we know what he said about him after the Champions League tie. Said he's one of the best midfielders that I've seen. What a performance from him. Under Jurgen Klopp, he would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, those highlights in particular of him playing against City last season that Moby posted, I believe, last night.
And
Incredible. One thing I will say, maybe this will come back and bite me in the ass, but I'm going to take a turn to put my head on the chopping block here. Shades of Frankie de Jong, the way he drops deep and sort of waltzes around that first press from the attackers, and then he has the field at his mercy. And to be fair, I will say if people are looking for someone to compare him to, I would say he's Curtis Jones with some better decision making, because a lot of people admire Curtis Jones's close control, his skill, his guile, his sort of languid way of waltzing around people, but he doesn't make the next decision quickly enough. Matheus Nunes for Sporting was making great decisions most of the time. And you could see that in the Man City game. You could see why Guardiola is like, wow, the ceiling on this kid. This kid is ready for the highest levels of football.
It was the most bizarre move for him to go to Wolverhampton Wanderers, a team that hasn't got a vision. I know Julian Lopetegui.
Yeah, the second one was closer, I think.
Lopetegui. He is a good manager, but it's far too late.
Lopetegui. No, you did
fuck him. Well, fuck it. For whatever his name is. Fuck it. Don't worry about it. Shouldn't swear, but I apologize. But
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it was me swearing, but thank you for apologizing for me. No worries. Yeah, he's a good manager, but it's too late. We saw glimpses of him in the FA Cup game and against us in the league game, or what Matheus Nunes can do. He will do this over 90 minutes as well. He's got a great engine on him. Let him have a grueling preseason under Jurgen Klopp, and you'll see a player, an absolute beast of a player next season.
Gotcha. And I am also of the opinion that if
you're on mute, you idiot. You can't hear you. Hello? No, I can't hear you. Or is it me? Is it my sound? It shouldn't be. Yeah, I can't hear you, Evan. Can everyone hear me, or can they hear Evan in the comments?
How about now? I just switched.
Yeah, there you go, Evan.
Went off the expensive.
I should have just let you carry it on, actually.
Oh, I don't know about that. Listen. I will say what I do think is if you can fix Liverpool's eights, then I do think you make Fabinho's life easier. You make Henderson's life easier. You make Stefan Bajcetic's life easier. And that's someone we have forgotten to address as a six. Stefan Bajcetic at times in his short collection of cameos in Liverpool first team was doing more in the six.
Please don't butcher his name, Stefan Bajcetic. It's Bajcetic.
It's not
Bajcetic. It's Bajcetic. It is Bajcetic.
It's Bajcetic.
It's not Bajcetic. Okay, carry on.
Chat, who's saying it right? Who's saying it right?
You look like a fool. It's fine.
Chat, who's saying it right?
Look, we got a comment here from Carter Brereton. Matheus Nunes is so talented, people forget that at the bottom of the league, it's all about executing what the manager wants. And Nunes doesn't do that at Wolves, but he does for Liverpool. Fair point.
Well said, Carter. Well said, Carter. Thank you. Evan is right. It's Bajcetic. All right. Anyway, Stefan, we can agree on that, right? Stefan is a guy.
Stefan
Bajcetic. Stefan, see, it's it's not Bay, it's Bay.
No, it's Bajcetic. It's Stefan Bajcetic. Anyway, come on, carry on.
I don't need the ASMR, please. Stefan is gonna be a player who's gonna get some time in the six next season, and then when you have guys who are more suited to playing the 8 role than our current stock, then I think once you sort of fix the system, everybody sort of benefits and everybody's flat in the same way that everybody in a way kind of gets sort of benefit of the doubt this season, because as a collective we're so dysfunctional. I think once the collective improves, then we'll see everybody start to improve. We'll see Trent improve, we'll see Robertson improve, we'll see our center backs improve. It kind of just works like that once you have round pegs and round holes as opposed to square pegs in round holes. Lastly, I'll speak on Jude. Um, this guy's a unicorn. This guy's a unicorn. Avi's making me feel very good about the likelihood of him signing for Liverpool. Thank you for that. Um, his profile is so unique that if for whatever reason he doesn't become a Liverpool player, then my point is Liverpool have to go in an entirely different direction in terms of how they plan their midfield. That being said, I'm also pretty confident that he'll sign just based on the constant smoke, no smoke without fire. But I am also feeling pretty good about this three. I would prefer six, but you have to say with Fabinho and Stefan, you could make the case that that's good enough, and Fabinho won't underperform to the same extent. I think these are fair arguments, and I'm willing to take a deep breath and let things unfold as they may. It's sort of all about letting it go. You don't want to be wound up like a spring all the time, Avi, especially in such difficult seasons. One thing I forgot to touch on was Evan Dicka. I don't know too much about him. I know our friend Dave Hendricks on Twitter doesn't think that he's a guy who's going to play in a back four. He says he's more of a back three type defender, and he's not someone who necessarily improves us. I think the lure of Indica is that he's free, right? He's free, and I'm personally not of the opinion that Liverpool should go big in the transfer market for a center back. That's kind of just how I feel. I don't know if you disagree. I know you're big on Josko Gvardiol, but
Beautifully said, by the way.
thank
Beautifully
you,
said.
thank you for the first time. This window of all windows to go and do 70, 80 on Josko, probably not a good idea. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I would. I would. And Nick is just a very interesting link. It's just a very interesting link for me, Evan. I think there are centre backs out there. And if Hosco Gavadiol, if the fee is way above our scale, then we will definitely be looking at a centre back because Matip it does seemingly look as if he's leaving. Indik is not that guy for me. Just not. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he can play in a two, and it surprises me and he becomes. He's 21 years old, so it's wrong to say, oh, he can't play in a two. I think that's a very silly statement to make. But I just think right now, I think we can look for someone better. Louis Colwell, Levi Colwell, Carter just mentioned him. Unfortunately, he's at Chelsea, but he's another one who's really good. And then obviously, I know Moby's big on the old Portuguese youngsters that are coming through, Ignacio and Antonio Silva. Antonio Silva looks very good. Only seen him maybe a couple of times, but he looks a very tidy player too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not really of the opinion that Liverpool should go big on a center back this summer. If there's a opportunistic free agent move to make, like in Dick, I could be talked into it. But I'm so just like hyper focused on the midfield that it becomes difficult for me to justify even more than 30 million on a center back this window.
We've got
Especially
one. Go on, carry on.
I was just gonna say, just especially given just how much Jude is gonna cost, whether it's spread out over years or a large upfront sum, it's just gonna be a bit too much. Super chat time. Would you like to read this one, Abby?
Yeah, great chat. How does the team set up around Jude? Evan?
How does the team set up around Jude? Well, hopefully differently, because if Liverpool just take Jude Bellingham and drop him into Liverpool, how they currently play with their absurd mismanagement of space, then unfortunately it's not going to make things much better at all. Liverpool need to reinvent themselves, KD, completely. The press needs to be reinvented. The management of space needs to be reinvented. The first, second phases of building out from the back need absolutely to be reinvented. It's not as simple as new signings solve all of Liverpool's problems. It certainly is the quickest way to get from point A to point B in terms of making progress on that front, but there is an equal amount of work to do for Klopp and co just in terms of rebuilding this team tactically, because I think I talked about this, sometimes this season our press against Madrid, our press against Brighton, it's just so easy to play through. It doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter who's pressing, because the idea and the tactic behind it is so flawed. Doesn't matter if it's Jude Bellingham pressing or Curtis Jones. It doesn't matter. So the question is definitely more, how does Klopp rebuild the team as a whole with a greater access to talent? Because it really isn't as simple as just new blood. We absolutely need to rethink how we approach our game as Liverpool.
Yeah, great said. There was talk of sporting director Evan.
Yeah,
David Lynch, James Pearce has mentioned an external appointment. I don't know much. I know there were murmurings of Marcus Kroish, Paul Mitchell, who's leaving Monaco at the end of the season. His name has been touted. Christopher Freund, is it? His name has been mentioned. But nothing from my side. Evan, is there a particular sporting director that you would want to come in? You'd want to come in, or are you fairly relaxed about that too?
It's probably
And
my
and is that a big appointment this summer, considering that we've just gone balls in on Jude Nooch, Matthias and Mason Mount? Is there a outcry now for, oh, we've got to get a sporting director? Is that a position that we can sort of still sort of like ponder and think about and assess once the season's over?
I think it's something we can think about. And to me, just getting one announced tomorrow would just be more about easing people's fears and easing people's worries about stability within the team, stability within the club. If those targets that we talked about, Bellingham, Mount, Nunch, if these are players that have been outlined and pinned as our primary targets for a while now, using the work of Edwards, using the work of Ward, and all the groundwork, keyword groundwork, if it's all been laid out already, things that a sporting director would already do, if Julian Ward has already done all the work, then maybe it's not super pressing. I think just in show to demonstrate continuity for PR purposes, I think it would be nice to get a sporting director in. And these names that have been floating around, Mitchell, Freund, any of the other names that have been leaked, I'm happy with all of them. I don't know nearly enough about the specific skill sets that's required to be a world-class sporting director. I do say what I think would be absolutely required is someone who is not necessarily a yes man, kind of. It's been reported so widely at this point by Joyce and others that guys like Linders now have such powerful sway over who we target and why we target them and when we do it. Not that that's a bad thing, because I don't think Pep Linders is incapable of providing good feedback and good recommendations for signings, but I do think Liverpool were at their functional best in behind the scenes when there was a greater division of power or checks and balances. Though whether a sporting director would want to come in and work under the financial constraints of Fenway Sports Group being expected to compete with Oil States on one hand, and then on the other hand, they might not have as loud of a voice as some of the coaches in terms of how the recruitment process works. I do think that makes finding a sporting director a harder task than it probably should be for a club of our pedigree and our size. So it's something that I'm watching with sort of a wary, sort of concerned eye, Avi, but it's not something that I think absolutely needs to be ironed out in the immediate future.
Would it be a position that could interest? This is a wild thought, by the way, and it'd
Okay.
be my only thought of the day, as we've got to wrap up now because I want to open up a few drinks and get my night away. Could it be a position that could entice Steven Gerrard?
Well, I'm sure any high level position at Liverpool could entice Steven Gerrard. I mean, whether his head coaching career is done at this point or not, I'm not quite sure. I personally don't think so. Uh, I don't know how seriously you wanted me to take that. I'm gonna say no. I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we had on the agenda for today.
Predictions. Listen.
Score
Wait,
predictions.
before we say goodnight to everyone.
Score
to the
predictions.
people. Yes.
Avi, your score prediction for tomorrow, 4:30 a.m.
2-0 Liverpool.
2-0 Liverpool. Who's scoring?
Darwin. to make up for that League Cup, those League Cup misses. And I'm gonna go with Diego Jota.
Wow.
Needs a goal. I think his last goal was actually last season against Man City. That's his last goal for Liverpool. So
Gotcha.
it'll be good if he scores. Yours predictions
Uh,
tomorrow?
2-1 Liverpool. I'm going to say we score first with Mohamed Salah. Then they are going to score with Riyad Mahrez. And then we will score the winner in the second half in front of the cop. It's going to be Darwin Nunez. Making up for his misses, like
We're
you
fucking
said.
playing
So,
at the Etihad, and you're saying in front of the cop.
oh,
You fuck. This is why you give Americans like us a bad name about football. You don't even know if we're playing home or away. Idiot.
we're just going to move on and pretend it didn't happen. We're just going to move on. I'm
Yes.
entitled to a few mistakes.
Darwin Nunes is gonna score in front of the cop.
In spirit. In spirit.
Gakpo Nunes, and Salah.
Yeah, that's also what I would do. Definitely. You know, yeah, I'm gonna say Darwin Nunez still gets the winner. I haven't changed my prediction at all, if I'm being honest.
Nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is
yeah.
but
Listen, before you do the whole outro and stuff, guys, we're back. Thank you for supporting us, supporting the channel. At one point we had over 90 of you guys, close to 100 of you guys on here today. I think it was because of that Mason Mount exclusive. Like I mentioned, 40 million is the figure. I'd expect it to be done. And yeah, please like and subscribe. We've got some fun shows happening over the course of the next few weeks. Happy Ramadan for all the Muslims that are celebrating Ramadan. So Mubarak to you all. And we will be back next Friday. And yeah, Evan, any final thoughts?
hopefully we have some 2 wins to talk about, because we have Chelsea on Tuesday. Hopefully we have 2 wins to talk about, as well as some exciting developments in the world of Liverpool transfers. And with that, we will bid you goodbye. Like and subscribe on your way out. We're gonna head to bed a little early tonight. We got an early morning. So everybody, take care, and we'll see you next time.